Hello, this is Max. A wanderer finds the biggest gold nugget in the desert and must protect it from bandits and wild dogs until his light comes back. Don't forget to subscribe. The movie begins with a train passing through a desolate area. Inside the train, a rugged man named Virgil sits, eating pieces of bread. Across from him, a peculiar woman struggles to shoot her baby. After some time, the train comes to a halt and Virgil exits, handing his remaining bread to the woman. He then proceeds to a nearby shop, inquiring about someone he's looking for. However, the shop owner remains fixated on the television, offering no response. Virgil later asks for directions to the bathroom, and the owner directs him in a language he doesn't understand. Following the vague directions, he discovers a dirty bathroom teeming with flies. Despite the unsanitary conditions, Virgil is compelled to use it to relieve himself. While in the bathroom, he hears a masculine voice asking if he's waiting for someone to go to the compound. Virgil confirms, and the man departs. As Virgil washes his face, another man approaches and warns him not to waste any water. In the subsequent scene, Virgil is shown being accompanied by a truck driver named Keith, who is taking him to the compound. During the journey, Keith explains the fee for the ride, which surprises Virgil as he believed it to be only $200. Struggling with the oppressive heat, Virgil attempts to switch on the truck's AC, but Keith chastises him, claiming it would strain the engine. After a considerable distance, the truck's tire goes flat, forcing them to stop and change it. While doing so, they witness two wild dogs fighting. Keith chases away the healthy dog and humanely puts down the injured one. Once the tire is fixed, they continue their journey. Later, they stop to refuel, but as it's already nighttime, they decide to rest and resume the journey the next day. During their evening together, Keith asks Virgil about his reason for heading to the compound. Virgil explains that he's searching for a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity and is confident he can find it there. Keith, who frequents the compound, tries to dissuade Virgil, emphasizing that the compound is not a place for better opportunities. He warns Virgil that the only thing he's likely to find there is hard labor. The next morning, Virgil is behind the wheel of the truck while Keith rests in the passenger seat. After driving for some time, Virgil begins to feel the intense heat of the scorching sun outside and decides to crank up the truck's AC to its maximum capacity. Unfortunately, this leads to the truck's engine overheating and breaking down. When Keith discovers what has happened, he angrily shouts at Virgil and instructs him to pull over. After stopping the truck, Virgil apologizes for his mistake and heads off to relieve himself. On his way back to the truck, he notices clusters of rocks nearby and becomes curious. He starts clearing dirt from one of the rocks and is surprised to discover what appears to be gold. Excited, Virgil calls out to Keith and asks him to take a look. Keith arrives at the spot and uses his lighter to test the rock, explaining that if it burns and turns black, it isn't gold. However, when he applies the flame to a part of the stone, it doesn't change color, leading Keith to conclude that it is indeed gold. The scene then shifts to the two men using shovels in an attempt to dig the gold out of the ground. However, the rock is enormous and firmly lodged, and despite their best efforts, they are unable to move it even an inch. In light of this, they decide to use a rope attached to the truck to try and extract the gold from the ground, embarking on a potentially life-changing endeavor. Despite their efforts, the enormous rock still refuses to budge, and the rope detaches, leaving Virgil and Keith frustrated. As evening approaches, Keith decides to search for firewood for the night. He explains to Virgil that the area is populated with active wild dogs, and the only way to keep them at bay is to build a fire. Virgil joins him, and together they gather a pile of firewood. They light the fire and sit around it, discussing the fortune they've discovered. Keith becomes increasingly excited, envisioning how their lives will soon change dramatically. He screams and jumps with excitement. After some time, Keith suggests that since they are unable to extract the gold themselves, one of them should go to town to get an excavator to dig it out. He mentions that he has contacts who can help them acquire an excavator and suggests that Virgil should be the one to make the trip, as he is unfamiliar with the deserted environment and might struggle to survive there for an extended period. However, Virgil disagrees with this plan. He proposes that Keith should be the one to go and bring back the excavator while he stays behind to protect the gold. Virgil asserts that he has no knowledge of the new town and lacks sufficient contacts there. Despite Keith's insistence, Virgil remains resolute in his decision, claiming that he is tough enough to handle the situation on his own. This sets the stage for a potentially tense and perilous journey as Virgil prepares to guard their newfound fortune in the unforgiving desert landscape. The following morning, Keith is shown departing from the location after providing Virgil with canned food, some water, and a small tent cloth. Before leaving, he hands Virgil a satellite phone for communication and a pocket knife for protection. Keith estimates that it might take him about 5 days to return with an excavator. He advises Virgil to keep his spirits high and take care of himself before departing. Virgil is left alone, and he ties the tent cloth around a nearby tree, creating a makeshift shelter. He tests the satellite phone to ensure it's working and then sets out to gather firewood from the area. Upon returning with some firewood for the night, he discovers a scorpion roaming around his makeshift shelter. Using a piece of wood, Virgil chases the scorpion away from his sleeping area. As night falls, Virgil is shown sitting beside a campfire, eating his canned food and enjoying his meal. However, his peace is disrupted by the sounds of wild dogs quarreling nearby. In response to the potential threat, he holds his pocket knife firmly in his hands. The following morning, Virgil wakes up looking pale and exhausted. He rushes to empty his stomach but hesitates to use any of his limited water supply to clean himself up, emphasizing the challenging and isolating nature of a situation in the unforgiving desert landscape. While Virgil is struggling to make his way to the ringing satellite phone, he becomes frustrated as the call ends before he can answer it. In his frustration, he walks around the area and comes across the wreckage of a crashed plane. He briefly considers using it as shelter, but since it doesn't provide a view of the gold site, he abandons the idea. However, he salvages some parts from the plane and uses them to create a shelter. Shortly after, a weary Virgil dozes off. When he wakes up, he finds part of his face sunburnt due to the intense sunlight. Sitting beside the gold, he starts talking to himself. In the midst of this self-conversation, he gets an idea to try breaking off a chunk of the gold. After repeated strikes with a rock, he successfully breaks a small but heavy piece of gold. Around this time, Keith calls him on the satellite phone, and Virgil hastily answers. Keith informs him that it will take longer than expected to return because his trick's engine is overheating frequently. Virgil excitedly tells Keith about breaking a piece of gold. Keith suggests that Virgil sit right beside the gold and assures him that he will do his best to reach him as soon as possible. That night, Virgil is shown sitting right beside the gold. Some wild dogs approach him, but he uses the firewood to chase them away, ensuring his safety as he waits for Keith's return. The next morning, Virgil pours some water into a bottle and drinks it. As he does, he notices a striped snake approaching him. He attempts to kill the snake, but it manages to escape. When he turns back, he discovers that he accidentally knocked over the bottle, spilling most of the water. Virgil then returns to the plane crash site to collect more wreckage for his shelter. However, he notices someone approaching and quickly enters the plane, trying to hide himself. After a while, the stranger, who turns out to be a woman, arrives beside the plane and asks him to come out of hiding. The woman offers Virgil some food and drinks, but he refuses to accept anything from her. She also asks him about his motives and how he ended up in the desert, but Virgil remains silent, ignoring her questions. Later, Virgil offers the woman shelter in the plane and begins to leave. However, she suspects that he's hiding something from her. Subsequently, the woman starts chasing Virgil and continues to question him about his presence in the desert. Irritated by her persistent inquiries, Virgil confronts the woman and tells her not to interfere in his affairs and to leave. At the same time, the woman notices Virgil's shelter and begins walking toward it. When she attempts to destroy his shelter and insists he leave, Virgil becomes enraged and strikes her with a shovel, killing her instantly. Virgil then takes useful items from the woman's backpack and buries her near his shelter. Shortly afterward, wild dogs dig up the woman's body and start pulling it. Virgil notices this and chases the dogs away. He then drags the woman's body some distance away and cremates it using firewood. As he does so, his eyes are filled with tears, suggesting a complex mix of emotions and a harrowing turn in his solitary struggle for survival in the harsh desert environment. The following morning, Virgil wakes up to the sound of the satellite phone and answers it. Keith informs him that he has successfully located the excavator but needs more time to reach Virgil due to the heavy load of the equipment slowing down his progress. Before hanging up, Keith encourages Virgil to stay strong. Later, Virgil notices a passing truck, but his greed for more gold prevents him from leaving the area. While searching for firewood for the night, he observes a sandstorm approaching. He rushes back to his shelter to seek safety, but the storm quickly tears apart parts of his makeshift shelter, forcing Virgil to flee for his life. During his escape, he is struck by a tree branch. After some time, the sandstorm subsides and Virgil awakens from a pile of sand with a piece of the branch lodged in his stomach. Instead of removing the branch immediately, he hurries to inspect the gold site. Clearing away some sand, he finds the massive gold rock and passes out. In the next scene, Virgil decides to pull out the branch from his stomach, causing profuse bleeding. He then makes a fire and heats a can, using it to disinfect the wound, all while crying in pain. Following this painful process, he smears his face with sand and collapses to the ground. When Virgil wakes up, he sees a woman pointing a crossbow at him. Seeing this, he starts having visions of the previous woman he had killed. The new woman offers him some water to drink and then leaves. When Virgil opens his eyes again, he doesn't find the woman anywhere around and concludes that he may be hallucinating, suggesting the extreme physical and mental toll his circumstances have taken on him. Meanwhile, the satellite phone rings and Virgil digs it out of the sand. He informs Keith about the woman he encountered, and Keith suggests that he should get rid of her. Shortly after their call-ins, the woman reappears in front of Virgil, offering assistance. However, a greedy and gold-obsessed Virgil yells at her to go away, dismissing her pleas for information about her missing sister. Later, when Virgil regains consciousness, he finds himself surrounded by the remains of burnt-out fires and wild dogs. He immediately contacts Keith, asking for help as the wild dogs are closing in on him. Keith assures him that he's nearby and will arrive soon. Virgil pleads with him to come quickly, as the wild dogs are attempting to attack him. In a chilling twist, it is revealed that Keith is actually sitting at a distance from Virgil, observing him through binoculars. He watches and waits until the wild dogs finally attack Virgil, dragging him away. After some time, Virgil is shown being consumed by the wild dogs while still clutching his gaze on the gold. Shortly afterward, Keith arrives at the scene with his truck, attached to an excavator. He looks down at Virgil's lifeless body and then returns to his truck, seemingly attempting to retrieve something. As he turns back, he is shot in the chest by an arrow. The movie ends with Keith falling to the ground, attempting to identify his mysterious assailant but finding no one in sight, leaving viewers with an enigmatic and unsettling conclusion to the story. If you are interested in such films, please proceed to the next video on the screen, and also share your thoughts about this film in the comments. Give us a like and subscribe. Goodbye.